Welcome everyone to entry number 5 into my spooky diary. Last time we took a glimpse at Silent Hill 2, its basic gameplay and structure, and today I want to talk a little bit more about the story of this wonderful game. As you can probably tell by my praising words, I really enjoyed playing this game. The main reason for this is the story of it. Before I go into detail about it, I have to warn you, this is going to spoil a lot of the game. So if you want to remain spoiler free, you better leave this video. Go on and watch a Minecraft video. That's what the cool kids do nowadays, right? But let's start from the beginning. As I said in the first video, Silent Hill 2's main character is called James Sunderland. I know, I called him Harry a couple of times, and I could have easily fixed that in post, but what should I say? I'm a lazy bastard. James normally acts as a kind and well-mannered person, but he also has to fight with depression after his wife Mary died after long illness 3 years ago. After he receives a letter from his deceased wife, in which she summons him to that special place in Silent Hill, James travels there to be reunited with his love. But after he arrived in Silent Hill, he learns that things went spooky and the town is filled with monsters and demons. But there are more characters besides James. There is Angela Orozco, the young woman I mentioned in the first video a little bit. James and her keep bumping into each other in Silent Hill, and as time goes on, Angela's behavior begins to change. At first she's a really quiet and shy character, but as the game goes on she becomes more gloom and depressed, while at the same time developing an aggressive attitude towards James.
Angela, relax.
Don't order me around!
I'm not trying to order you.
So what do you want then? Oh, I see. You're trying to be nice to me, right?
She's also the one that explains to him that Silent Hill called her, and he also was summoned there. We also learn that Angela was abused as a child and later on killed her abusive father. Another character is Eddie. I do believe his last name is Dobrovsky. He's a young, overweight man with a sense of humor. He's like the comic relief character in the first meetings you have with him. James first met him in the Woodside apartment complex, where he's hanging over a toilet, vomiting violently. I don't know why. I guess that's supposed to be funny or shocking. Just like with Angela, Eddie's behavior changes over the course of the game. He acts more irrational and seems on edge. He often manages to be on the run from someone or something, and later on he reveals that he suffered from bullying due to his weight and appearance. And after breaking under the pressure, he killed a dog. He also shot one of his bullies in the knee, crippling him for life. Eddie also acts as one of the bosses in the game that you have to fight, and is ultimately killed by James.
Eddie? Eddie? I killed a human being.
Now you may start to see a pattern here. All characters James met so far have some sort of sin they have to pay for, and all of them have been called to Silent Hill to be judged. But how does James fit into this concept? To understand this, we have to introduce two more characters. One of them is Laura, the little girl I briefly mentioned in the last video. She claims to know James's wife Mary, and basically the whole game revolves about James trying to get to Laura to figure out how and why she knows Mary. And let's just ignore the fact that 50% of the game are about a grown man chasing after a little girl. Later in the game it turns out that Laura knows Mary from her time in the hospital, where both spend a lot of time due to illness. During this time Mary became something like a surrogate mother to Laura and even wanted to adopt her. And here it is where the game slowly starts to fuck with your mind. James himself explains that Mary died 3 years prior to the events of the game, but Laura claims to have talked to Mary just a few weeks before the story takes place. What happens to Laura in the end depends on what ending you achieve, so let's leave that topic aside for now. The last character we have to talk about is Maria. You can already tell that her name sounds awfully like Mary's. So let's take a look at Mary, and now compare her to Maria. Yes, they are pretty much the same person. James meets Maria at the Rosewater Park for the first time, with the park being one of his and Mary's special places in Silent Hill. For a second, he believes to have found his wife, just to realize that Maria is a different person. Maria is the only person you meet in the game that is born in Silent Hill itself. But even she doesn't know what's going on in the town. She decides to help James on his search for Laura and Mary and joins him for a good part of the game. Now, do any of you remember Ashley from Resident Evil 4? You know, that NPC that couldn't defend herself and as soon as she died you got a game over? Well, Silent Hill 2 did it first. Well, Maria can't defend herself and as soon as she bites the dust, it's game over for you. Great. I love that stuff. Maria herself acts mysteriously and enigmatic, and although she isn't Mary, there are instances where she recalls things only Mary could know, and later on in the game even behaves like she's one of James' lover or they are in a relationship.
I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real. Don't you want to touch me?
Adding to the mystery is the fact that our good friend Pyramid Head shows up to kill her, just for her to pop up later and acting like nothing happened. The game never really explains who Maria really is. She could be a manifestation of James's mind, representing his sexual frustration and longing for Mary. Or she could just be a normal human being that looks awfully a lot like his dead wife. So, how does all of this play out in the end? James eventually succeeds in reaching the Lakeview Hotel, his and Mary's special place. Here he reveals to Laura and the player that Mary didn't die 3 years ago, she died only a couple of days ago. How did she die, you ask? Well, he killed her out of mercy. At least those are his words. The game explains due to her illness, Mary started to act aggressive and dismissive towards James. He got depressed and frustrated, so he turned to drinking and eventually smothered her with a pillow after she begged him to do so. And that's how we learn about James' sin and his reason for being called to Silent Hill. This eventually accumulates into a final battle between James and Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head acts like James's punisher throughout the game, and I really like the concept of him being part of James's mind that manifested in Silent Hill to make him pay for his sin. And only by accepting his guilt and standing up for his crime, James is able to defeat him. Well, he doesn't really defeat him. Pyramid Head commits suicide. And it all ends with James finally reaching Mary. Or not. Again, depending on the ending you achieve, you either meet Mary or Maria, who's posing as Mary. Either way, the game ends with James fighting the Maria demon and receiving a last letter from Mary. I won't go too much into detail about the endings, I only briefly explain what happens in them. The ending you most likely get while playing the game has James denying Maria, killing her, and leaving Silent Hill after a final talk with Mary. It is hinted that he adopted Laura later on, or is going to adopt her, but the game doesn't spell it out for you. And that's the only ending where we see what happens to Laura. In all the other endings, there is no indication what happened to the little girl. But she's supposed to be fine, because she's the only innocent character in the game, and only guilty people can see and can be attacked by the monsters in Silent Hill. In another ending, James decides to stay with Maria, leaving Silent Hill with her. And in what most people regard the canon ending, James also fights Maria, but later on commits suicide by driving into a lake to finally be reunited with Mary. There's also an ending where James tries to resurrect Mary, and the outcome of this ritual is unknown. My favorite endings has to be the UFO ending, and the ending where it is revealed that the dog was responsible for the events in Silent Hill. Why a dog? Well, who knows? I guess the drugs in Japan are just really awesome. But which ending is the true ending? It actually depends which one you think it is. The game's writer, and I hope I pronounced this right, Hiroyuki Owaku never publicly stated which ending is the right one. So it's entirely up to you. What you feel is the right ending. And this sums up the events of Silent Hill 2. I had a blast playing this game. Throughout the game I had no idea how it would play out in the end. And I was really surprised that I lasted that long without spoiling myself on the story. And I am really glad I did so. The twist about James killing Mary took me by surprise, I tell you. I didn't see that coming, unlike the twist in the last game. And another great part in the game were the appearances of Pyramid Head. I had my phone buzzing in the background. Even though I hate invincible enemies. Does anyone of you remember that Time Demon from Prince of Persia? Or the Regenerator from Dead Space? Fuck those guys. The characters in-game had interesting and developing dialogue, and they left an impression on me. Although I enjoyed the first appearance of the Bobblehead nurses, I was a little bit disappointed about the lack of enemy variety. There are like 3 enemy types in-game you have to fight. Felt a little bit tedious to fight them later on in the game. The puzzles felt original and creative. Just look up the trick or treat box to know what I mean. But from time to time they felt a little bit too easy. Maybe I should have changed the riddle difficulty to hard to have more of a challenging experience. Maybe I'm gonna try that later. So far I've played Silent Hill, Silent Hill 3 and Silent Hill Homecoming prior playing this game, and now I can say that Silent Hill 2 easily is my favorite game so far, at least my favorite game of the series. It can stand on its own and it doesn't need you to have played the first one to understand the story. There is a lot of potential for discussions regarding the story and characters, and up to this day people are talking about how all the events in the game may be a dream, or how James may suffer from a split personality. Even if you aren't a huge Silent Hill fan, I would urge you to check out this game. It's a well-rounded horror story combined with great looks and sounds. And with that, I'm gonna end this entry. I hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of Silent Hill 2. I will now go on to play Silent Hill 3, and I will be back with another entry for you beautiful people. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button or leave a comment. Constructive criticism is always welcome. And I'm gonna see you in the next edition of my Spooky Diary. Bye bye.